Hey YouTube, it is June and that means it is Pride Month, and so I am an ally. I got my Free Moms Hug shirt on today, and so I don't seek out LGBTQ books. I pick books based on vibes, and that does mean I end up reading a lot of them, and I enjoy all of them, so I'm going to share with you some of the ones that we have read already this year or within the last calendar year that we enjoyed, and I'm going to break them up into some of the kind of genres and feels so you can have them be however you want. I'm going to start off with a couple of gay books. In these books, these are people dealing with the fact that they're gay. They're trying to work through that and through societal expectations of it. So you get a little bit of that tension about being gay in a world that's not as accepting as everybody would like it to be. So first, I'm going to start with Frederick Bachman, My Friends. Bachman writes a bunch of very beautiful fiction books. The Anxious People is really good. This was my first one I read from him, and I really, really loved this one. This is a book about friendship in our youth and about growing up, and it's a beautifully written book. Our main protagonist in here, well, Ted, is gay, and so we have a deceased friend who has died, and then his lover and some other boys. It's a beautiful written story. I definitely recommend this one, and it's a bonus that it's an LGBTQ. Had no idea when I picked it up, not that it mattered, and it's just Frederick Bachman's a great writer. I definitely recommend everything they read, but if you're looking for something just for June, I recommend this one. Next in our gay representation, I just got to Song of Achilles. This one is a Greek mythology story of Achilles and going to Troy and everything. It's a really nice, interesting take. I think most people read this about a year and a half ago. They read this one and Circe, and it was like everywhere. But in this book, Achilles is gay. He has a lover. I don't know if he is in Greek mythology. Maybe, kind of. I think the Greeks were pretty fluid with everything. So in this one, he is gay. There is a little bit of strife in the community about the fact that he doesn't want to take a wife because he is in love with his, he calls him his guard or whatever. It's a very beautiful story about his playing musical instruments and then how they want to try to become together at the end. It's definitely a recommended read, especially if you like books that are kind of in the mythology world. Definitely recommend this one. The next one is not a one I've seen on Book Talk. So this one I picked up because looking for group, and then it had the World of Warcraft people down here on the bottom, and I used to play World of Warcraft, so I was like, ooh, it's a World of Warcraft gay book. This turns out to be a gay romance. You have one character who already knows that they're gay. They RP as a female character in the game. It doesn't really say that they like kind of identify with it. They do. They both actually play female characters, which is what I thought was interesting. And then we have a guy who's just like your normal guy who plays the game. He plays tabletop games with his friends. They both meet. There is a little bit of a misunderstanding at first where the one thinks the other one is a girl. But they build a little bit of a friendship and a crush and everything. And then he finds out that it is a boy. And while he has a little bit of struggling with the idea that, oh, maybe I'm gay, or maybe I just like this person and I don't care that they're a boy, and they come to an understanding on that, and they grow and they have a beautiful relationship. And it also, part of the reason I really enjoyed this book, not only was it a beautiful journey of him, being like, hey, look, I don't care if I'm gay. I like you. I don't care who you are. You are the person that I like. But they had a really good representation of the MMORPG world and what it's like to be different types of players in that world, and how other people outside looking in at people in that, how they misunderstand some of those communities and stuff. Things that I dealt with in my real life, even though I wasn't looking for love in the game. But it was a really great story, really well written, and I love these guys as a couple, and so that's definitely a gay recommendation. I have a trans recommendation. This is Health Followed With Us. So I read this one this year. It's really hard to find, sometimes to find good fiction with trans representation. A lot of the stuff is nonfiction and about their struggle. This was a very interesting end of days kind of take. There's like a religious base into this book. It feels like the end of days, and like some people have been called to heaven and some people have been left behind. And our main character, Benji, is trans and he's been left behind. It talks a little bit about them struggling with their parents, with their identity, and kind of a little bit of feeling damned. They also runs into another community of people that is full of LGBTQ people, more trans, gay and lesbian people and community in there. So there's a good amount of representation. This one, you can see this one actually won an award for the American Library Association. It was beautifully written. It wasn't my vibe, the whole religious based twist on it, but it was still a pretty good read. So if you're interested in seeing that trans representation, and good recommendation. Next is lesbian representation. We have so many good representations of lesbian, and I wanted to start with Taylor Jenkins Reid's. I got 2 books here for her that I read this year. I don't know if she always writes lesbian, because these are the only 2 I've read 3. I read Daisy Joan and the Six, and that was not lesbian. But first I got The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one is gay and lesbian. We've got 2 actresses who met while filming something together and they fell in love, but this was the 1950s, 80s. I think it's the 1950s, but it was not socially acceptable for them to be together. So this talks about, as she goes through her life, like telling her story about their struggles of trying to be together, how to hide it, marrying beards, having families. Like, they fully invested in their beards. Their husbands love each other. They talk about some of their other gay people that they've known that's had to hide, and just that struggle of it. And then how when Pride movement got going, that because of their famous lives that they lived prior, they couldn't come out and overtly support it. They did a lot of underhanding supporting of it and stuff like that until you get toward the end of her life. But it was beautifully written. I love the way that she writes her stories. It's, I think, a fair representation of how people felt during that time and how probably a lot of people led their lives during that time. So it was just a really good read if you're interested. And then next I read Atmosphere. I love this book. I love astronauts. This is so great. In this book, our astronaut is a lesbian. They do keep it hush. It was the 1980s. You know, it wasn't a good look still in the 80s, unfortunately. So they work through their relationship, kind of keeping it hidden. They don't go as far as to beards or anything. In the end, it does kind of come out, you know, pretty obviously that they were a couple and that they were gay together, as far as everybody to know. But and it was really just kind of a side piece to this story. The rest of the story is super amazing. It's about grief, it's about loss. I love her books. So definitely a recommend. I have a couple here that my daughter recommended. This is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. This is a gay and lesbian read. We have a couple who are together. They are both in love with their head guards, lesbian and gay. So we got beards and beautiful little story. This is a historical fiction setup, so we've got this in King Arthur and Knight's time. So it's just a nice little fun light read. Obviously, since they're married and wearing beards, it's not quite socially acceptable that they are gay and lesbian, but or they have to for political reasons. I don't know. Next, I have this series, and it's, which one's first? The green? Delilah doesn't care. So this is a series. They are connected. And this is 3 different versions of a lesbian story. Here we have Delilah Green doesn't care. Delilah is a lesbian. She's struggling with some grief and stuff, so she's not actively dating at the time, but then she finds the right person at the right time. She's always known she's gay. There's a little bit of strife with some people bullying on her and stuff, not necessarily because she's a lesbian, but you know, it's some struggling here. Here we have, this is a friend. And now she's just not interested in dating at all. So kind of giving you an asexual vibe, but she's a lesbian, finds the right girl, the right kind of girl, and it is magic for her. Here in the 3rd book, Astrid is actually with a man, and the 2 of them do not fit well together. Astrid's not the man? Oh, this is the story about Astrid after she left her man, because she was with a man in the 1st book, apparently. Sorry, I'm getting pointers from the side here. And then after Astrid breaks up with the man who was not making her happy, because they were not right for each other, she does find out that, oh, maybe it didn't work a little bit because I actually like women, or maybe I like both. I don't know. But she finds a woman who makes her feel more complete and is happy to move on. So this is a great trilogy. These are connected. You do want to read them in order because events happen in this book that play into this book, at least, at minimum. So interconnected, standalone romances. Great series. I don't know if this author writes only lesbian romances, but recommendation. Next, we have, this is another newer lesbian story that came out now. And this one is, we have 2 child actors just like Evelyn Hugo, but this is the modern version, and they don't need beards because now you can love who you love, hopefully. So these 2 they just have typical normal romantic problems. She drinks too much, you know, and they have their strife and stuff. But this one is a cute, sweet lesbian romance where nobody cares that they're lesbians. So the world we want to live in, right? So those are all of my kind of like real world lesbian, gay, trans recommendations. So the next stack I have over here, these are all in the fantasy world. And the best thing about fantasy world is nobody cares. People don't have to struggle with other people not liking their sexuality or anything like that. And I think that's great because that's the way we should be. So it's probably why I like these representations the best. It's like, just like it's normal. And that's the way it should always be. So let's jump into these. First, I have Rebecca Thorne's. This is the actual 3rd or 4th book in the series. The 1st book is You Can't Spell Tea Without Treason. Or You Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. And this is about 2 people who are fleeting a really controlling overlord. Obviously, they're lesbians. One is then her guard, and the other one is like she's part of their family. A mage. Oh, one of them is a powerful mage. So one of them is the head guard, and the other one is a really powerful mage, like the mage of ages of kind of thing, in that world. And they're in love, and they're trying to get the guard out from underneath the king. So they run away to this like little bitty town where they don't think anybody will look for them, and they set up a tea shop. And they just build a world in this town, and they try to stay out of political stuff. They get dragged in a little bit, and they have adventures for 4 books. These are great little reads. I really enjoyed these. There's actually a blog in here about if you're a Travis Baldee reader, which is my next book to recommend. I actually like these better than Travis Baldee's books. So definitely recommend these. I think she's done with the series now at 4 books. I'm not 100% sure. They're a good time. The couple is just adorable. They don't have relationship drama. They're sweet. They have political problems. So they're not romances, even though they are romancy. But definitely recommend these. And as I said, next up, I've got Travis Baldee's Legends and Lattes. There are 3 books to this series. Travis Baldee, I got to see him in person. He was promoting his Brigadiers and Bread Knives book, and we got that one signed. He had said that there's so much male representation out there in the world that he has decided that as he writes characters, they will all be female until he has a reason to not make them female. So that is his thing. I don't know if that's why we ended up with lesbian coffee shop owners, but there we have them now. This is a very similar premise to this one. We have a retired adventurer, and she has decided that she wants to open a tea shop in this main city. They don't even have tea or a coffee shop. It's actually a coffee shop. They make lattes. She wants to open a coffee shop in this town in a region of the world that doesn't even have coffee. So it's a big struggle at first because they don't even know what this is. People are like, that smells okay. But she, again, builds community, builds family. This one takes on big political adventures more than this one. This one stays cozy in small problems. There are 3 of these books. The second one is a prequel, and you learn a little bit about how things that shaped our main character in that prequel. I like the prequel quite a bit. And then the third one is about the character she meets in the prequel, coming to see her, and then going on a little adventure. So all 3 of these are really great. I don't think that there's really lesbian representation in the third book. I think there's a romance, kind of a slight romance, but I don't think it's lesbian. I'm having a hard time remembering. But the first 2 definitely have lesbian representation, and it's perfectly, it's side, and I just like seeing it in a place where it's not drawn out like it's something significant. Like, oh my God, no, who cares? They're great. They're lovely. I did miss the relationship in this one. This one is a very subtle lesbian relationship. It's more of they're running the shop, and then she's like, it's not really safe because some stuff's happening. You should stay here. And she's like, yeah, I'll stay here with you. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And they're running this coffee shop together, and they're staying upstairs in the one bed. And I just didn't even think anything about it. And they're like, yeah, they're like a couple. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, they're sharing a bed. And I was like, if it wasn't safe for my friend to walk home and she needed to stay, she could stay. And she could stay in the same bed with me. Or if we were like really poor and running a coffee shop by ourselves and sleeping upstairs, there was only room for one bed, then yeah, I mean, so it is a subtle lesbian, but it's really good. So recommend. Next, I got TJ Klune. I think TJ Klune writes a lot of gay. I've read 3 books of them, and they have all been gay. So definitely a recommended writer. Of course, in all of his fantasy worlds, it's normal. It's normal. I love this series. I love the series where we had he's the social workers came in. He's met the leader of the head mister of the orphanage. I love the uniqueness of all the little creatures and the kids and the characters, and how it just can make you see, just because these kids are different and slightly special, they're just normal kids. You know, even if they are a lump of slime or whatever, they're just normal kids. It's a really great story. This one and the sequel, I absolutely adored both of these books. I did just recently read his new release, Then They All Burned. I was not expecting that after I read this, right? Just because while both are fantasy, they're very different, but I absolutely loved that book as well. I don't own that one, so that's why it's not here laying with us. But beautiful writer. I think, I know they've got another series with wolves, and I'm pretty sure those are gay wolves as well. So definitely recommend TJ Klune if you're looking for some good reads in July or June. All right, the last series that I have set up here is the St. Gibson. I've got Evocation and Ascension. I think there's going to be a third one. I think coming out. You can see the Roman numerals at the top. This is a series. This is about wizards and warlocks and a fortune-telling wife. Our main character, I'm going to call him the main character, was in college involved with our secondary main character in a gay relationship. They had some drama. It does talk about it a little bit in here, some disagreements and stuff. So our main character also met and then fell in love with a woman. So he is bisexual and he's married to said woman, but he still loves this guy. And so with the permissions of his wife, he does later get a relationship with this man. So he is bisexual, who is married, and he has a boyfriend, and then his boyfriend obviously is gay. The wife is, I think she's straight. I think they've got some lesbian friends. There's a lot of representation going on these books, and that is obviously not the primary part of this story. There is a curse we got to break over here, and then over here in some efforts to recover and gain power after doing that curse, we've gotten into some necromancy stuff that's gotten out of control. So while all that is happening romantically in these books, these beautiful books are really about magic. So great LGBTQ representation, without the sadness and the struggle on that part. So great recommended reads. So these are just the ones that we've read so far this year. We're only halfway through the year. But these are just ones that came off the top of our mind. We do end up picking up a lot of representation. Actually, in my new book reads, we just got a new gay representation that we haven't read yet. And it is, I found it. Then one of our newest releases, if you're into monster romances, but you're also still looking for gay, we have Tentacles and Triathlons. I haven't read this one yet, but my daughter's friend did read this and absolutely adored it, for those who are into monster romances. And so there are a selection to get you started if you have nothing. And that's all. Thanks, YouTube.